Hi and welcome back to I Bloody Love Orange. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jess, and this is our true crime podcast.
We're back.
Yeah, hi.
Because this week was our birthday week, we had the first minisode, right? The Disney minisode,
Yep.
which is by far one of my favourite podcasts that we did because it was the most hilarious thing to record, and it's about one of my favourite topics. So yeah, it was like one of my favourite.
It
If you
was
haven't listened, you should go listen to that.
it was really funny to record because something was always going wrong towards the end. So we had to keep starting it again. But it was funny for Josh because he wasn't the one that had to keep talking mid sentence again and again and again. But and all I could see was him laughing while I was trying to do it. But at that point in the podcast, all you can hear is static. So I apologise for all the static noise that was in the background at that point. But
Yeah.
basically what happened was something happened. We couldn't hear it in the recording. We couldn't hear it in the editing. And then once it was published, there was static. And now we can't fix
Yeah.
it because it happened during recording rather than like post recording. So yeah, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Yeah, I am sorry. I did check the recordings and stuff because obviously we've only been doing this for I don't know 3-ish weeks. So there's some teething problems we've had. I'm still learning how to sort of put these audio files together and like mess with them and stuff. So if you do have a problem listening to something, please let us know because I'll definitely try and fix it as best as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, just some teething. But to be honest, we did because we have absolutely fallen in love with the podcast. We
Mm.
did get mics for our birthday. Jess got a new computer. We have like 1,000 leads we've been ordering because this has become like our new absolute favorite hobby. So hopefully it's going to get better from here on out.
Yeah. And like I got all these connecting wires coming soon. I don't really understand. There were so many things I needed to order for the mic to go into the computer. I don't really get it, but hopefully everything's gonna be fine. All the
Yeah.
teething issues are gonna be done soon.
Yeah.
Soon,
Yeah, I
soon,
hope
soon.
so. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. How was our birthday's on the same day as we said before. So how was your birthday? Did you have a nice day?
Yeah, my birthday was great considering, we're in like lockdown or whatever, we couldn't go anywhere.
Mm,
But it was really nice. I got up really early. I usually do anyway. But I
mm,
got up a little bit earlier and went and had a nice relaxing cup of tea with my dad before he went to work, and
nice.
then I had just like a chill in bed and I was watching Disney Channel stuff because I'm addicted to that
Nice.
now, and I'm just reliving my childhood. Like as I get older, like even on my birthday, I was watching The Sweet Life this time. The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. So
I love the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
yeah, I mean it's great. It still is. I still love it, and I like aspire to be London. Like that hopes. I just really hope that
Oh,
is my life.
I
Um,
have I
yeah.
have like a weird like not conspiracy, but like I absolutely ages ago I heard a really weird thing about the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Do you want
Hmm.
to hear?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you might know this actually. I think you do know this, but like so in one of the guys that does one of the voiceovers for the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and one of the guys that does
Oh,
voiceovers in
I know.
Disney. You know what I'm going to say, right? And
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
arrested for like sexual, misconduct with a child.
Yeah.
And then soon after he's released, he got rehired back to do the Sweet Life of Zack and
Disney
Cody, be the
Channel.
mirror,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ugh, so creepy.
That is creepy. It is weird. I can't remember his name, but I remember his face. Like now he's. I can hear the bell again.
Oh, so I should
The
explain.
bell is
There
back.
are times, yeah, when in Japan, every time it hits the hour, these bells go off. I'm so sorry if that's really loud and really obnoxious. I'm really
Oh, it
sorry.
wasn't really loud. It's just in the
Yeah,
background,
yeah,
like noticeable.
yeah. It's a nice piece of Japan for you.
There we go. There we go. Um,
did you did you have a fun time researching? Because I really didn't. Mine got so dark and so heavy and emotionally painful.
I I had an okay time. I struggled to find a case that I really wanted to talk about this week. I was just sort of like there was a lot of cases I was looking into, and nothing was really, I don't know, hitting me in the gut. I was like, oh, maybe I'm just desensitized to everything. So, but then I found one, and I knew about it, and I'm pretty sure you know about it. It's a really famous one, and I know that we've talked
Okay.
about it a long time ago. I don't know, but it was just interesting, and I was like, oh, do you know what? There's a lot of like suspects and clues, which I like, as well as
Oh, nice.
hearing about the actual crimes and whatever. So I thought, oh well, I'll give this one a go. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience because I recently, especially for the podcast, I've been going over a lot of my old notes from university and stuff and looking at old cases that I've like looked at, and then I don't know, nothing hit me that I kind of felt super excited to talk about, or I don't know, I couldn't get enough information, I guess, on some things. And then it wasn't until I stumbled across the case that I'm going to do today, and then I don't know, I felt so affected. And the more I looked at it, it was just there was no, I don't know, no good part to it. It was just affecting. Um,
So for those
so
of you who
yeah,
don't know, Josh did like a double law degree.
yep,
You did criminal law, didn't you?
I did.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
criminal
that's what he
and
means.
civil
That's
law.
what he means by going back over things he did in uni. Like he had access to like a lot of case files. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
In the UK, we have this like Lexis Library, which is kind of like an online thing. I mean, I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's not interesting at all, but
it
it
is.
just means that you could go on and look at like case files, court files, and you could look up things to do with your whatever you were studying, and that's been a really helpful tool to like go on and check stuff out. It's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
Because
good.
I don't have that. I just have the internet and YouTube and stuff and my own brain.
Yeah, I mean, I did end up at one point looking at. I got so invested in the people, and I felt so bad about the whole case, and I don't know, it really upset me. And I started looking at like interviews that they'd done, and I was reading. I read about 3 newspaper articles that they did, um, just after the event had happened, and I don't know, I got really sucked into it. I felt like I was there, I was part of it. I was like supporting them.
Oh, I'm excited to hear. I really am.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. But this week, because I think I went first last time, so if
Yeah.
you're
So it's my
good,
turn.
can I listen?
Yes, you can
I'm
listen. Why did you say
excited.
litten?
Did I have a bit of a list? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, that was
it came
my.
out. It was like so I will have a litten. It was so cute. Oh, I loved that. Oh my god! All
I
right,
think I was just
everyone.
really comfortable.
No. So everyone, let's have a nice litten.
Let's
Okay,
have a nice little listen.
a litten. All right, ready? So I'm going to
Yeah,
talk about the alphabet murders. Have you heard about them?
I don't know. I mean, if we've talked about it before,
Yeah.
maybe, but
Once I
alphabet
start
murders, that sounds
talking about it,
interesting.
you're gonna know. You're gonna know.
Okay. Oh, I'm
Okay,
excited.
so the case is well known, and there's even a movie about it. I think it's really interesting. So, um, it's like a series of murders that are most likely connected, even though it's never been confirmed as a serial killing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So here's what it makes it like connected. Um, the similarities between each case. So this is why most people think it's serial killing. So all three
Okay.
victims were pre-adolescent females who disappeared from Rochester in New York. Now I realize we have talked about Rochester a lot on this podcast. I think every single podcast has been a mention of Rochester.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm so sorry to New York
No, it's
fame.
it's funny. I just thought like, isn't that weird? I just then as I read that word, I was like, God, there's been a lot about Rochester. We'll have to look for some new
Oh.
areas. Okay, so yeah, all the three victims were pre-adolescent females. They disappeared from Rochester in the early afternoon on days of light or heavy rain. So it was always
Ooh,
raining on
okay.
these days. And all of their bodies were later discovered within the adjoining counties. Um,
Okay.
the body of each girl had been discovered either fully clothed or partially clothed, close to an expressway, at location typically accessible by vehicle. Each time, oh no, each victim had evidently been thrown from a car or carried from a
Ooh.
car to the location where her body had been um, discarded, I guess is the word.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, so that's the similarities in the body and the abduction.
Okay.
Which is a bit weird, isn't it? Like you're waiting for a rainy day to just go and snatch a girl. I know. Each child was short in height. All three of the girls had been raped before they were strangled to death. Um, In addition, all three were known to be viewed as somewhat like lonely outcasts. And this is weird, but the stomach contents of two of the girls revealed that they had both ingested food shortly before their death. And
Okay.
neither girl is known to have eaten prior to her disappearance. And both the bodies of these girls had been redressed after death.
Oh.
So that indicates that the person that took them, most likely a man, had fed them or enticed them in with food, had taken them to like go and eat somewhere before he killed them and raped them or whatever.
Ugh.
Yeah,
And then redressed them. That sounds. I don't know
yeah,
why that phrase sounds worse than
yeah. So only
to be
two had been
redressed by
redressed.
someone.
Out of the three girls, only two had been redressed, and only two had
Okay.
eaten. Which we'll come to later as well. We'll come to later
Yeah,
as a
I'd be
bit.
annoyed if I was the one that didn't get to eat.
Right. Okay. So, uh, both contemporary and current investigators have stated the possibility each victim had been selected due to the double initials of her name. So all of them have like the same initials of their first and last names. There's Carmen Colon, Wanda
Okay.
Wolkowicz, and Michelle Mienza. Mienza.
Oh, so the first and
So
last name have
CC,
the same initial.
yeah, CC, WW, and MM.
Okay.
That's why it's called the alphabet murders.
Oh, okay.
Because there's like a theory that they're all selected because of that. But the investigators think it's like highly unlikely. Um,
Okay.
and they said, as for the offender, to pre-select his victims for the identical reason, like the letters, would likely
Mhm.
involve his stalking of the victim over an extensive period of time, increasing the
Mhm.
risk of being noticed. Some investigators believe that although the murders of Wolkowicz and Mienza may have been committed by the same individual, um, we think there's like theories that actually there's only the two that were killed by the same person and the other one was completely different, but just
Oh,
happened
okay.
to be the same
Like
place, the same
similar.
time-ish. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of why
Okay.
they're similar and kind of why we think most people think that it's a serial killing of three girls, but investigators think it's two. Um, but we'll get into it. So I'll give you a bit
Okay.
of background on each of the girls, okay, and like the way that they disappeared that is known,
Okay.
okay. So first of all is Carmen Colon, and if I'm saying that name wrong, I'm really sorry. It's really hard to like read these names right.
You might
Uh,
guess the pronunciation.
yeah, I literally are. So at 4:20 p.m. on November 16th in 1971, a 10-year-old Puerto Rican child named Carmen Colon disappeared while returning home from an errand in Rochester, New York. According to eyewitness, Colon entered the pharmacy her grandmother had instructed her to visit on West Main Street, but left the store upon learning the prescription she had been instructed to collect had not been processed. Informing the store owner, Jack Corbin, this is what she said, quote, I gotta go, I gotta go. That's what she said.
Okay.
Um, she was then observed entering a car parked close to the pharmacy. Colon was reported missing to the Rochester Police Department at 7:50 p.m. So she went out 20 past 4 in the afternoon. She went to the pharmacy like she was told to. The thing she went to collect wasn't ready. Then she said, weirdly, I gotta go, I gotta go. And then she got into a
Okay.
car in the car park, or a car that was parked close to the
Like close by.
pharmacy. And that was it. She was gone. And then her
Okay.
parents or her grandmother reported her missing at 7:50. So they, not a huge amount of time between that and then. So I would say that's fast acting,
Okay.
on the parents' behalf.
Yeah,
Approximately 15
that's
minutes.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite good. I mean, if it was my child, I don't have a child, but I think if my child went out on her own at 10 years old and didn't come back within half an hour, I would be on the police's case.
Yeah, you would start freaking out, especially that young, I guess, right?
I think it's just because we know now like what happens, and
Oh yeah,
especially me and
definitely.
you,
Like,
we
yeah,
look into these things more than everyone else, so it's like fresh in our mind.
yeah.
Yeah. Approximately 50 minutes after Kalan exited the pharmacy, scores of motorists driving along Interstate 490 observed the child, naked from the waist down, running from a reversing vehicle believed to be a dark-coloured Ford Pinto hatchback, frantically waving her
Okay.
arms and shouting in an attempt to flag down a passing vehicle. At least one of these
Okay.
witnesses observed Kalan being submissively led back to the vehicle by her abductor.
Oh,
Isn't that
that's
weird?
awful.
So
That's
it and
horrible.
the phrase that they used in like research and stuff was scores of motorists. That just means to me like a lot of people saw this happen and did nothing.
Yeah, like how many is a score?
I know. I mean,
You
a
know?
score of people. That to me is like a huge amount.
Well, if it's let's be honest, if it's more than a few, then you're already like that's already frightening. If a few people, which is usually like what, two or three, saw a naked, half naked girl running down a street away from a car, that's enough to sort of, provoke some sort of like fear in
I
somebody. So a
know.
score of people, that's
I it,
insane.
I think it's insane. I really do. Like when I read it, I remember reading it a few years ago and just being like, "What the hell?" Like, why has no one stopped? Like, shouldn't multiple people see a like half naked girl frantically waving her arms? Wouldn't you stop and be like, something is
Yeah,
not right here?
yeah, of course,
You
yeah.
know, God's sake. But anyway, 2 days later, two teenage boys discovered Kalan's partially nude body in a gully not far from the interstate where she was seen, and close to the village of Churchville. This location was approximately 12 miles from where Kalan had last been seen alive. Her coat was discovered in a culvert some 300 feet from her body. Her trousers were only discovered on November 30th. Um,
Oh,
so, a good couple of weeks later. Um, Close to the service road where numerous motorists had observed her attempting to escape. Um, an autopsy revealed that in addition to having been raped, the child had suffered a fracture to her skull and one of her vertebrae before she had been manually strangled to death. Furthermore, her body had been extensively scratched by fingernails.
oh,
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Both the murder of Kalan and the fact that no individual who had observed the child attempting to flee from a abductor alongside the interstate had attempted to offer her any assistance
oh
generated
wow.
intense public outrage.
Yeah, I
Um,
bet. I mean, it's
yeah,
hard to listen to.
I know it is. I just can't believe that no one would stop. It's just disgusting. Two New York newspapers, the Times Union and the Democrat and Chronicle, initially offered a combined reward of $2,500 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of her murderer, and all information each publication received was relayed to the police. Numerous local businesses and residents added private donations to the reward fund, gradually leading the sum to exceed $6,000. Although
Oh
police
wow.
interrogated several suspects in the months following Colon's murder, all were cleared of involvement, and by December 21st, the number of investigators assigned to the case on a full time basis was decreased to 3. So she went
Wow.
missing in November, like the beginning of November. She was found just after, 2 days later. And by the end of December, they were just like, nah, we're done. We'll just decrease the amount of people on this case to 3.
Wow,
Isn't that
that seems,
ridiculous?
I don't know how long it takes for them to usually decrease something like that,
I
but that
know.
does seem fast, right? Like 2 months,
It seems
not
ridiculous to
even two
me.
months have passed.
Yeah, and
Wow.
like, and for the amount of public outrage and like, it's very publicized, this case. I mean, all these companies offering their own money for
Yeah,
information. So it just seems like, I don't know, for the police, just seems a bit of a like, they just can't be asked to me.
right.
I mean, $6,000 in the 70s, in the early 70s, that's a huge amount of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. I don't know what the inflation would count it as now, but that is a lot.
That is a lot of money. That's I don't know about the inflation either. We'll have to find that out later. Um in early 1972, 5 large billboards, each measuring 30 feet by 12 feet, so really big, were erected alongside. Oh, I used the word erected, and then I like freaked out when I like said it myself. Were erected alongside major Rochester expressways. Um, each had a 8 feet high picture of the child,
Oh
alongside the
wow.
headline, Do you know who killed Carmen Colon? Free use of these billboards was given for 1 month by the Rochester Outdoor Advertising Company. Each offered a $6,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction of Colon's murderer or murderers, in addition to displaying the telephone hotline number and postal address. But it didn't really. It generated several new leads, but they all led to
Didn't
nothing.
lead anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Like I said, a huge publicity on this case, but
Okay.
nothing came of it. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward to the next girl now. Okay, so this is the next girl that died was called Wanda Wolkowitz.
Okay.
17 months later, at approximately 5 p.m. on April 2nd, 1973, 11-year-old Wanda Wolkowitz disappeared from the east side of Rochester while returning home from an errand. According to the owner of I can't even say it, the delicatessen. What is that?
Delicatessen, yeah.
What is it?
Delicatessen.
Yeah.
Isn't it like it's like a deli? That's somewhere that sells
Oh
like,
God, I'm so
hams and
sick.
meats.
I'm literally so sick.
That's the long word for a deli, you boob.
I know, but like I read it a few times and I was like, what the hell is that? I was like, I'm gonna have to put it in because that's the accurate thing, but I have no idea what it is.
That's great.
So anyway, according to the owner of the deli, Wolkowitz had been instructed to visit. The child had purchased the groceries that she had been instructed to buy at about 5:15, before she began walking home alone down Conkey Avenue. That's the name of
Oh,
the road.
nice. Conkey Avenue.
Yeah, Wolkowitz was reported missing by her mother at 8 p.m. So she left the deli at like 5:15, and she was
Yeah.
reported missing at 8. Again, quite fast. Good
Yeah,
on
that
the
is
parents. Good
fast.
on the parents. Yeah. Police immediately launched an intense search to locate Wolkowitz. Almost 50 detectives searched several square miles of the terrain around her home, the deli, and the areas around the Genesee River. She was known to play by there. These searches failed to locate the child, although several neighborhood residents recalled observing Wolkowitz struggling to carry the bag of groceries, walking just north of Avenue B. That's not the same avenue. So she went down a different avenue, and then she was like coming down a different road, and she was really struggling to carry all the groceries on her own. So numerous people had seen her there. 3 classmates specifically observed Wolkowitz bracing the bag against a fence so that she could improve her grip on the bag as a brown vehicle drove past her.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
creepy.
so
That's like a very strange bit of like information to give.
yeah, and these 3 classmates were in her class, so they knew her. It wasn't just like, oh,
Hmm.
could that be her? No, it was her, and
Okay.
it was a very specific thing for them to like say. Yeah, so keep that in mind as well.
Okay.
Wolkowitz's fully clothed body was found by a police officer at 10:15 a.m. the following day, discarded at the
Wow,
base of a
that's fast.
hillside. Yeah, I know. Discarded at the base of a hillside alongside an access road to State Route 104 in Webster, approximately 7 miles from Manchester. The position of her body indicated that she'd likely been thrown from a moving vehicle, with her body rolling down the embankment. An
Oh, that's
autopsy
awful.
revealed that she had been sexually assaulted, then strangled from behind with a ligature, most likely a belt. Several defensive wounds indicated Wolkowitz had fought her murderer. In addition, her body had been redressed after death. The
Ugh.
autopsy also revealed traces of semen and pubic hair upon the child's body. Furthermore, several strands of white cat fur were found upon her clothing, although the Wolkowitz family did not own a pet with a fur of this colour.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. In a
Yeah.
disgusting way. As had been the case with Carmen Colon, investigators established an anonymous telephone hotline in addition to distributing numerous flyers throughout Rochester appealing for information. A reward of $10,000 for more information leading to an arrest and conviction of Wolkowitz's murderer was also established. So it's gone from
Okay.
6,000 to 10,000 in 1972. Or was it 73? It's 73. So that's a huge amount of money. Huge.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
it's
huge amount of money
jumped.
now, you know?
Yeah, I mean 10,000 for just a missing. Well, no, she's already found murdered, I guess, at this point. But I mean, still,
Yeah.
it's a good chunk of money.
Yeah. These police inquiries produced an eyewitness who informed investigators that as Wolkowitz had walked home from the deli on the evening of the April 2nd, he had observed the child standing alongside the passenger door of a large brown vehicle, conversing with the
Oh,
driver. This eyewitness was unable to obtain a clear view of the occupant in the vehicle, although the location of the sighting was just 0.2 of a mile from the Wolkowitz home. So she was really close
wow.
to home. Another individual who contacted investigators following the installation of the anonymous hotline informed investigators she had observed a man forcing a red-haired girl matching Wolkowitz's description into a light-coloured Dodge Dart on Conkey Avenue between 5:30 and 6 p.m. on the evening of her disappearance. So someone had basically seen her talking to this guy in the car, and then someone else had said that they'd seen someone forcing her into the car. They didn't say it was her, but they said like it was, it
The
probably was her.
description's really close.
Yeah. And they knew the car, and it was on the road that she had been seen walking down just after. It was like literally between 5:30, and she left and had been seen at 5:15. You know.
Okay.
So
Sufficiently creepy.
yeah. The Rochester Police Department dismissed any suggestion of a link between the murders of Kalon and Wolkowitz, although a sheriff's sergeant who had been assigned to investigate Kalon's murder by this stage was still open and largely inactive, was reassigned to the task force implemented to investigate the murder of Wolkowitz. So the police said that they didn't think there was a link between the two, but then they put the guy that was the sergeant on Kalon's murder onto Wolkowitz's murder. So they
Okay,
must
well that's
have
good
thought
because kind of similar case. They must have, had some like inkling that these were somewhat connected.
exactly, but then they're saying to the public, no, they don't think it's connected.
Okay.
In September 1973, local television network WOKR announced plans to broadcast a televised reconstruction of Wolkowitz's abduction and subsequent recovery of her body. This 30-minute episode was broadcast on the 21st of October, accompanied by public appeals for witnesses to contact authorities. Although the program resulted in the Rochester Police Department receiving over 200 calls from the public, no useful leads were gained.
Oh, wow.
So again, very high profile case. The public are very involved in this. A lot of people calling in saying, I've seen this and I've seen that. It's
hmm
hard to decipher which is
People
true.
are invested, right?
Also, when you offer a reward of that size, people are desperate. They're just going to say something, you know?
Oh, yeah, I
They're just going to
guess. Well, that
try. They're just going
sucks.
to try and get whatever they can say in there and hope that they're going to get some money out of it. A reward can be a blessing and a curse, I think.
Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
you get a lot of leads that go nowhere and like mess up the case. Okay, so on to the next murder. Michelle Maenza. I think it's like Maenza.
Okay.
It's a weird spelling. I mean, it's obviously Spanish or like Hispanic. 7 months later, on the evening of November the 26th, 1973, 11-year-old Michelle Maenza, I should say Maenza, was reported missing by her mother after she failed to return home from school. Subsequent investigations would determine that Maenza was last seen by her classmates at approximately 3:20 p.m., walking alone en route to a shopping plaza located close to her school, with the intention of retrieving a purse her mother had left inside the store earlier that day. So again, it's kind of like an errand. They're all like on errands.
Yeah, they're
Um,
all just like young girls out to do a task that get
yeah,
taken.
yeah. Approximately 10 minutes later, a witness observed Maenza. I can't say that name. Maenza.
Mensa.
Maenza. I'm going to go with that. Anyway, 10 minutes later, a witness observed Maenza sitting in the passenger seat of a beige or tan vehicle traveling at high speed on Ackerman Street before turning onto Webster Avenue. According to this witness, the child had been weeping.
Oh.
Yeah, which is if you see a girl in a car traveling at high speed, it's kind of weird that you can see that they're crying, don't you think?
Yeah, it is an odd. It's like an odd way to. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
I don't know how much you would see of a little girl in a car if it's traveling at high speed. Don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just one of those things that just jumps out at you. You're like, oh god, that girl's crying. Isn't that weird?
I mean, I guess if you're going at high speed, like if you're on like a highway, and then you're
Yeah.
both going at kind of a similar speed, then you can get a better look, you know?
Yeah, could have been. It doesn't specify. It just says according to the witness.
Okay.
Um, At 5:30 p.m. on November 26th, a motorist observed a man standing by a large beige or tan vehicle with a flat tire, parked alongside Route 350 in the town of Walworth, holding a girl he strongly believed to be Michelle Maenza by the wrist. When this motorist had stopped to offer assistance, the individual had deliberately grabbed the girl and pushed her behind his back, also obscuring his license plate from the motorist's view as he stared in the direction with such a menacing expression on his face that the motorist felt compelled to drive away.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he,
I
he had a
mean,
flat tire, and this guy saw and offered like help, and then saw the girl, and the guy, like, the abductor, pushed her behind his back and then covered his license plate and just stared at him like he was going to murder him or something.
like when you say it like that, and with the beauty of hindsight, you would think that if you were in that position, you'd drive away, but you'd call the police and be like, "Look,
Yeah,
this
you
is
would
so
call the police
sketch."
immediately. I mean, I
But
bloody called the
would
police
you?
the other day because I saw a chicken on the side of the road.
Oh my god.
Like, I was driving down the road and there was a chicken, and I didn't want the chicken to get hurt, but I couldn't stop because I had a place to be, you know. So I called the bloody police.
I mean, the the weird thing is like I would hope I would call the police, but I mean it's hard to tell really because there's a lot of situations where like you'd look from I don't know far away, right, and you
Mm,
like you think it's a family problem, so maybe you wouldn't call, but I would like to think that I would if it was that
yeah.
sketch, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so
Mm,
um Mayenza's fully clothed body was discovered at 10:30 a.m. on November 28th, lying face down in a ditch alongside a rural road in Mayston, I think it says, approximately 15 miles from Rochester. Her autopsy revealed that, in addition to receiving extensive blunt force trauma to her body, Mienza had been raped and then strangled to death from behind with a ligature, possibly a thin rope. Um, Numerous strands of white cat fur were discovered upon her clothing, and leaf
okay.
samples matching the foliage where her body was discovered were recovered from within one of her clenched hands, indicating that she had likely been strangled to death at or near the location where she was found.
Okay.
Investigators were able to retrieve a partial palm print from her neck and traces of semen upon her body and underwear. A forensic analysis of the semen samples determined that she had been raped by one individual.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, an analysis of the contents of Mianza's stomach revealed traces of hamburger and onions, which had been consumed approximately 1 hour before her murder, giving credence to earlier reports of a girl matching Mianza's description having been seen in the company of a Caucasian man with dark hair, aged between 25 and 35, approximately 6 feet tall, weighing 165 pounds, both at a fast food restaurant in the town of Pennifield at approximately 4:30 on the afternoon of her disappearance,
Okay.
alongside Route 350. Um, so that's a lot of information that they found with this one.
Yeah, she has a lot of like evidence surrounding her.
Yes. So the difference with this one is that she wasn't killed in the car and thrown out. She was killed on site, they think. They proved that it could have only been one individual. Well, they think it was only one individual raped her at least. Um,
I mean, oof.
yeah, and she obviously been coerced with food and
Oh,
been
that's
taken to
sad.
like a restaurant. Yeah, so only 1 hour, and there was like a clear witness to the man she was with. Um,
Yeah, because they can say that he was Caucasian.
Caucasian with dark hair, age between 25 and 35, 6 foot. I would say,
Oof.
average weight, 165 pounds for 6 foot. That's a lot, isn't it? That's normal.
Yeah, I think so.
At a fast food restaurant about an hour after she went missing. Yeah, so lots of information
Okay.
with that one. So those are the 3 victims and the 3 murders that took place. Again, very similar, aren't they? Like they have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, they're
Um,
all. Yeah.
and their names having the same initials, like the same letters initials, is we don't know if it's like on purpose or a coincidence. So let's get a bit into the investigation. So all 3 child murders generated intense public outrage. Each received intense publicity. Following the murder of Mienza, investigators released a composite drawing of the individual seen with the child by numerous witnesses to the media. I have that photo. I will tweet it later and put it on the Facebook
Cool.
page. It's really scary. It's one of those things that you see, and because you know that it's like this person's done this horrific thing, it like sends chills down you. It's weird.
Oof. Oh, I
Um,
hate those composites.
I know. They're more scary than like actually photos of the person.
Yeah, I know.
They also installed a telephone hotline exclusively devoted to the manhunt for the perpetrator, who they strongly suspected had committed all 3 murders. So they've changed their tune now. People are like, right, okay, this is done. All 3 have been done by the same person. Anonymity was what did I just say? Anonymity. Is that a word? That doesn't sound right, but it is a
And
word.
not anonymity.
Anonymity. Anonymity. Oh, God, I can't speak today. I got coconut oil on my head. I can't speak. Right. I can't say it. Whatever that is. Secrecy.
Anonymity.
Anonymity was offered to any caller offering information, and a reward was again offered for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrator. But these efforts resulted in numerous calls. No credible suspect was located. Um, Investigators interrogated more than 800 potential suspects in relation to the alphabet murders. The perpetrator or perpetrators of the homicides was never caught, and the case remains unsolved. Each child came from a poor Catholic family, had few friends, and had recently experienced issues with bullying or poor academic performance.
That's
Um,
sad.
so they've not the investigators have not discounted the possibility that the murderer may have been employed by or knew knowledge of the kids. They were employed by the school or social agency,
Oh, so
they
they have
think.
some sort of contact with the children.
Yeah, so they're saying, like, the police are saying that their suspect, they've not ruled out that the suspect could be someone that they know or someone that
Ooh, that's
knows the
awful.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have gained trust of the victim. So not necessarily like um that's the thing. 'Cause earlier we talked about like how it would have caught like the suspect, the what am I looking for here? The perpetrator um would have had to have stalked these victims to know their initials began with the same letters, right?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of work just for,
Yeah. Well, it's come back around that it's possible that these girls knew this person, and it wouldn't have been a stalker that would have known these details. They wouldn't have had to stalk them if they worked in the school or a social agency that knew these girls. It
yeah,
wouldn't necessarily be a stalker. They just knew these girls.
yeah.
So let's get into some suspects, okay?
Okay.
So prime suspect, and this is where it kind of separates because we talked about earlier how one murder could have been a separate murder, and then 2 could have been like not a serial killing, because a serial killing is 3 murders or more, but committed by the same person, and there could have been one done by another. So to get into that, Miguel Colon, okay, and he's the uncle of Carmen Colon, which is the first girl that got murdered.
Yeah, okay.
And he's considered by investigators to be a strong suspect in just her murder.
Okay.
So they think that he killed her, and then the other 2 are done by someone else. So we'll read that
Okay.
first.
Okay.
So in the case of Carmen Colon, her uncle Miguel Colon was considered by investigators a strong suspect. He was the brother of Colon's father. so her paternal uncle.
Okay.
Following the separation of Collon's parents, he formed a relationship with her mother, becoming known as Uncle Miguel. So even though her Carmen's mum and dad split up, her paternal uncle became close to her
Like
mother, and he was still
sneaks
like
in.
Uncle Miguel. Yeah, which is a bit weird. Typically, on occasions, Collon walked to the pharmacy to collect family prescriptions, which she had been doing. She had been accompanied by her grandfather, Felix. Although on the day of her disappearance, Collon had pleaded with her grandparents to be allowed to walk to the pharmacy unaccompanied. Just weeks prior to Collon's abduction and murder, her uncle is known to have purchased a car closely matching the vehicle seen by eyewitnesses, reversing upon Interstate 490 in pursuit of the child. So her uncle bought a car that closely matched the one that everyone saw reversing after the kid.
Okay. That's
Um, yeah, a
weird.
few weeks before. Investigators did not conduct a search of this vehicle shortly after Collon's murder. Oh, I said did not, but they did. Investigators did conduct a search of the vehicle shortly after Collon's murder, discovering the interior and exterior of the car had been extensively cleaned and the trunk had been washed with a strong cleaning solution.
Ooh.
Questioning of the dealership, which had recently sold the vehicle to Miguel, revealed that the trunk had not been washed with a detergent prior to the sale. Moreover, a doll belonging to the child was found in his car. Although Collon's relatives informed investigators that she'd frequently travelled with him in the car and may have left a toy in the car, according to his friend, 2 days after the death of his niece, Miguel had informed him of his intention to leave the country as he had done, quote, something wrong in Rochester, end quote.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. He relocated from Rochester to Puerto Rico just 4 days after the murder of his niece, which is
Wow. That's like
that's
suspect in
mega.
itself.
Yeah, yeah. Investigators did travel to San Juan to question Miguel in 1972 in March. So she died in November, so a few months later. Although local newspapers published articles detailing police intentions to question him, resulting in it resulted in Miguel fleeing from the authorities. Miguel surrendered to authorities on March 26 and then agreed to be extradited back to Rochester to face questioning. So
Okay.
Miguel Colon was unable to provide a credible alibi for his movements of the date of his niece's murder, and no individual could be located to oh my god, I can't speak today.
Cooperate.
Corroborate, yeah, his claims regarding his whereabouts, despite strong circumstantial evidence attesting to Miguel's guilt. No physical evidence was located at the crime scene or within his vehicle to link him to the murder. So it's all like circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel Colon committed suicide in 1991 at the age of 44, following an incident of domestic violence in which he shot and wounded both his wife and his brother.
Oh, wow.
So I'm pretty sure that with all that going on, he did something to her and he possibly killed her and then ran away and then went a bit crazy and then committed suicide.
I mean, yeah, that is all very. Obviously, if they said that there's no physical evidence, then, I can't condemn him, but
Yeah, exactly.
seems suspect, right? It's a little
Very,
sus.
very, very, very. Okay, so next, we'll go on to the next suspect. So his name is Dennis Termini. Um, he was considered a strong suspect in the Alphabet murders. He was a 25-year-old Rochester firefighter. Um, he was a prolific serial offender known as the Garage Rapist, who is known to have committed a minimum of 14 rapes of teenage girls and young women between 1971 and 1973. So the exact times.
Yeah, he already has a bit of a record.
Yeah. The exact times that between 1971 and 1973 the Alphabet murders happened, he is a serial rapist. So not looking good for him. Also, I hope he burns in hell. Um, He is also known to have owned a beige vehicle similar in description to the vehicle observed by several eyewitnesses to the abductions. He is known to have lived in an address on Box Street, which is close to the area that Mienza had last been seen alive. So he
Okay.
lives in the area. He's got a car that's close to it, and he's a serial rapist. And he's 25, so that matches the description from the eyewitness
Oh,
before.
he's young.
Yeah. 5 weeks after the death of the final victim of the Alphabet murders on January 1st, 1974, Termini is known to have attempted to abduct a teenage girl at gunpoint, although he fled the
Mm.
scene when the teenager refused to cease screaming. Shortly thereafter, he abducted another potential victim, although on this occasion he was pursued by police, culminating in Termini committing suicide by shooting himself in the head.
Oh God.
A subsequent forensic examination of Termini's vehicle did reveal traces of white cat fur upon the upholstery.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that is a strong link. How random is that to have like cat hair, like,
Yeah.
and be a serial rapist and match the
I
description
mean,
and be abducting girls?
I guess white cat hair isn't that uncommon,
It's not, but then when
but
you put it together with all the other stuff,
yeah, right. It just, yeah, exactly. It's so
like
sus when you put it together.
you can't take someone down for murder for having a white cat, like. But when it matches up with all this other stuff and he's a serial rapist, it's not good. It's not
Ugh,
looking good. But he killed
yeah.
himself. In January 2007, Termini's body was exhumed to obtain DNA sample for comparison with the semen samples recovered from Wolkowitz's body. But the results of the test confirmed Termini was not responsible for her murder. However, no physical evidence retrieved from the bodies of Colon or Mienza exists for comparison with his DNA. But that, to me, just means he didn't rape her.
Yeah.
He could have still abducted her, taken her somewhere else.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah.
But, I got two more for you. I got two more suspects. So we
Okay.
got time,
I
yeah. We got
like this
time.
bit.
We got time to follow on. We got time to work it out, right? So the next one is called Kenneth Bianchi. It's either Bianchi or Bianchi. We'll just call him Kenneth. Old Kenny boy. So another suspect in the Alphabet murders is a serial killer called Kenneth, who at the time of the murders worked as an ice cream vendor in Rochester. He is known to have worked at locations close to the first two murder scenes. Kenneth had relocated from Rochester to LA in January
Okay.
1976. Between 1977 and 78, he and his cousin, Angelo Buono Jr., committed the Hillside Strangler murders of 10 girls and young women between the ages of 12 and 28.
Jeez.
Kenneth was never charged with the Alphabet murders and has denied any culpability in the homicides. He has repeatedly attempted to have investigators officially clear him of suspicion. However, while residing in Rochester, he is known to have driven a vehicle of the same colour and model as the vehicle near one of the abduction sites. So he is a
Hmm.
suspect because of that, and because he was in the area at the time, and then he later went on to be like the Hillside Strangler. But
Hmm.
I maintain that if you have already been convicted of more murders than you were previously done, and you're in jail for life with no parole, there is no point in denying further crimes. Do you think?
I mean, yeah, there's no point, but you have to remember that I guess when you're in jail, one of the only things I've never been to jail, so I don't know, but they must hold on to some glimmer of hope that if they just were to keep denying, that at some point they maybe could get out. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's a good point. Because
I
in
don't
my head,
know.
I would just think like, well, if you've already admitted, or you've already been convicted of 10 murders, then the extra three is just, you know,
Yeah, that would seem
what's the point?
rational to just
Yeah,
give the families that kind of you know
exactly.
closure.
Okay, so this is the last suspect now. Ready? So his
Okay.
name is Joseph Nasso. And in April 2011, a 77-year-old man named Joseph Nasso was arrested in Reno, Nevada, for the murders of 4 women in California, committed between 1977 and 1944. All of whom were believed to have been prostitutes, and all of whose surname began with the same letter as her first name.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a bit later, and it was in California. But, it doesn't mean that he hadn't moved. So it literally says, so Nassau was a New York native who had lived in Rochester during the early 70s, and it was known to have regularly traveled between New York and California. Initially described by authorities as a person of interest in the alphabet murders. DNA testing confirmed that Nassau's DNA did not match the semen samples recovered from the body of Wanda Wolkowitz. Nassau was brought to trial on June 18th, 2013, charged with the murder of 4 California alphabet murder victims. He was unanimously convicted of each murder on August 20th. And on November 22nd, 2013, he was formally sentenced to death.
Oh, wow.
So he committed these murders with the same initials of older women in California. And he did live in New York.
And he had the same colorish car, right?
It doesn't say anything about the car,
Oh, right,
but
okay.
it's just a weird coincidence that he's a New York native who lived in Rochester at the time of these murders. But the DNA didn't match. But the DNA hasn't matched any of the
Yeah.
suspects. So it just seems weird to me, that does.
Okay. I'm not 100% sold on this one then.
Yeah, it's just such a weird coincidence though that if he, he killed more women. It just seems weird that he would then go after initials. Maybe he knew about the cases before and he wanted to be like a copycat killer.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting theory. But I don't know, this one does seem a little bit of a stretch, but
See, I don't think it seems like a stretch because it just is such a coincidence. It's such a
I guess.
not, maybe that's not the right word because why on earth would you choose women that have the same initial? Like, why is that a thing? And
Mm.
he lived in the exact place at the exact time that the 3 original murders happened.
Yeah,
And
the
the other
initials just
victims
strikes me as a coincidence.
the other victims also like didn't have a DNA match even though they had like all these other things that matched up to the case. There was no DNA match, which just seems like the DNA probably was contaminated or something then.
Oh, it's so sus. That's so weird.
Exactly. Okay, so just to close it in, no one has ever been convicted, and the case remains unsolved. In 1995, the mother of Carmen Colon made her first public statement regarding the murder of her daughter. In this interview, granted to the Democrat and Chronicle, she stated that although she had lived her entire life in poverty, if she could have only one thing before her own death, it would not to be wealthy, but to know who had murdered her daughter. And
Oh, that's
she
so
added
sad.
that if she could die knowing who killed her, Carmen, she could die more peacefully than she had lived. And she said, "It's the only
Oh, that's so
thing
sad.
I want in my life, to know that this person had to pay for the terrible things he did to my little girl. Um, if the person who did this could have any compassion, he would see the pain and suffering the families of these little girls have gone through for all this time."
Oh, that's
So
horrible.
very
That's so
tense,
sad.
isn't it? Yeah. So they the newspapers in the area, they still run um, articles about these murders, and they
Wow.
still appeal for public information, um, because they don't want to close the
Wow.
case. And they still do get new leads. People pursue them, but nothing's resulting in anything.
Wow,
But
it's so
the
long
police,
ago
so
now.
yeah, so just to end this whole thing, the Rochester Police Department remains committed to solving the case. That's what they said. That's their statement.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, new technologies are happening all the time. You give it a bit more time, and the bastard will be caught.
I
It
hope
only
so.
takes, like we said before, it takes one person to do a 23andMe, get the DNA on the system, and then boom, the profile somewhat matches,
Yeah,
and they work through the timeline. They go through your family tree, and bang, someone owned the car, someone lived in the area, someone was sketch as hell.
yeah.
Boom, DNA.
I mean, there's a lot of very, convincing suspects in this case, isn't there? Like I mean,
Yeah.
I think I do agree that, like at the beginning we talked about how one murder could have been committed separately to the other two.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think I do believe that.
Yeah, the uncle in the first case with the
Yeah,
Hispanic girl. Sorry, I
yeah.
don't know her name. I'm so sorry.
It's
That's harsh.
Carmen Colon. Carmen Colon.
Carmen
She's
Kalan.
Yeah, she's
Her
Puerto
case. I
Rican.
mean, he seems super sketchy to me.
Yeah,
Um, and it is sad because when cases kind of like overlap, like this, then they often get like grouped together, which I
yeah,
totally understand actually because they look like similar cases. I mean, yeah, difficult. I mean,
yeah,
some of the things that kind of get them together, like them being fed before the murder
yeah.
happens,
But
are
only
so
the last
awful,
two had that.
right? And that kind of, I don't know, that would suggest that their state of mind was different to the first killer, or,
Yes,
some
yes.
care, not caring, but like, oh, I don't know, setting up, I don't know, some weird situation where they feed that was so strange. I don't like that at all. So unsettling, right?
But it seems to me that it could be someone that they knew and trusted, like a teacher or someone that worked in their
Yeah,
schools, or someone that they would have all had in common, like a social worker, something like that.
yeah.
That they would have
Ugh,
trusted to go with them to have food, you know?
yeah. Wow, good case.
Thank you. Yeah,
That was that was good.
I knew about this one from a while ago, and I read up about it a couple years ago, and I remember us
Hmm.
talking about it before. And when I was looking for new cases to do on, like, today's podcast, this one just sprang to mind suddenly, and I was like, oh, I'll quickly go into that. And then I just picked this one because I was like, oh, this is a good case. It's got a lot of detail and a lot of suspects, which we like suspects.
The suspects. I enjoy that because that is interesting. Just to try and pin it down. I mean, it always sucks when a case is unsolved because you get this. When you've studied a case like this and then it comes up unsolved, you get this kind of like, ugh, this
Yeah,
life cliffhanger, which doesn't. You just have to hope comes through at some point. That's
yeah.
always difficult. But wow, interesting. That was good. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
That was nice. And you did such a long time, so well
I
done.
know it
So
was very long. I'm sorry, that was very long winded.
no, it was great. Okay, so yeah. With that being said, go get a drink, go get some tea, and I'll see you back here, ready to tell mine.
Okie
Oh, it's
doke.
so dark. Hi, and welcome back to I Bloody Love Orange.
Welcome back.
Um, Jesse, what an eventful break I've
Yeah.
just taken. So basically, during that break, a huge flash of light happened, and then a boom, and oh, just happened again. Maybe I am so sorry. Maybe you're going to hear the thunder and lightning that's just started occurring, like where I live.
Yeah, I can hear it slightly, but it's not too bad. But it's kind of exciting. I love thunderstorms. Oh,
Yeah,
I heard it
every
there.
now and then. Yeah, every now and then there's just like a flash of light and
Oh,
booms.
oh yeah, I can hear that.
If
It just
that is
adds.
super loud, I'm
It
so
just adds.
sorry.
It just adds to the creepiness of it. It's totally. It's so cool. I think it's really good
And
timing. I love it.
just so that people know, I didn't add that in halfway through the podcast.
Yeah.
It's not
Uh,
like me trying to add in like a creepy sound. No, it's legit.
oh, I
Just
saw.
is.
You guys don't know, but we're like on FaceTime as well, and I just
Right.
saw the flash right behind you.
Yeah, so if Jess and my cats,
Oh God, I can hear the
um,
cat.
yeah, she's just gone to the window and she's enjoying it too. So yeah, if this gets really messy, I'm super sorry. Mine's gonna be super quick anyway, so I'm gonna get right to it if you don't mind. So today I'm gonna be talking about the case of Beatrix Centura Sylvia. I researched this case from Wiki, YouTube. I used Lexis Library, and I also have taken some snippets from what people have said from USA Today and the Daily Mail that were sort of covering the case at the time, and spoke to
Mm.
some of the people involved. So, Beatrix lived in Longmont, Colorado, and she had moved there with her sister after her mother had died.
Hmm.
Um, she dated a man called Daniel Sanchez, also known as Pablo, for 4 years.
What?
I'm
That was
going to
random.
use I'm going to use the name Pablo.
Okay.
In 2020,
Mm.
Beatrice is 25 and Pablo is 31 years old. And in the autumn of that year, around Thanksgiving time, the couple broke up.
Okay.
After the break, Beatrice moves in with her sister and her sister's husband, 22-year-old Maria Santora Silvia and 32-year-old Max Aguera O'Hara. The two had recently got married and they'd moved into their own place. And I think people around the area at the time that spoke to the papers said that they're a lovely young couple and that they're looking to have kids and they're very sweet.
Cute.
Um, Quite soon after Beatrice and Pablo break up, Beatrice starts dating another man. So in 2012, the same year, uh, in 2012, in December the same year, I mean,
Mm.
Beatrix goes up and meets Pablo in the parking lot of a Best Buy because she needs to discuss a loan that she had made him. She'd basically given Pablo $1,000 to fix up his truck, and she wanted to talk about like a payment plan that
Hmm.
she could set up with him to get that money back.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
So while she's sitting with Pablo in his truck, she receives a text from the man that she's dating. Pablo leans over and sees the text and he recognizes the name.
Mm.
It turns out that Beatrix had previously been meeting and socializing with this guy while she was dating Pablo,
Mm.
but she'd always maintained that he's just a friend and nothing more.
Okay.
Pablo, seeing the text, gets really angry. He flies off the handle completely. He takes the phone from Beatrice and sends a really threatening message to the new boyfriend. He tells the man, like, I told you to leave her alone. You're going to POW. You're going to POW. It's believed that POW is a typo for pay. And that he
Oh, right.
basically says,
Okay.
I told you to leave her alone. You're going to pay. Um, he also left a really aggressive voicemail saying that he's going to beat the shit out of the man. Um, so he's really angry at the time. And
Right.
I think
Okay.
at that point, Beatrice tries to get out of the truck, but Pablo yanks her back into the car and starts off driving.
Oh, okay.
He then goes on this huge rant where he is threatening and berating Beatrix. And he's basically telling her, like, you're a whore, you're a slut, like, you've gone off with this other man.
Wow.
And he at some point during this rant takes her to a like unpaved sort of country lane sort of stop,
Like a
and he's
dodgy
just talking
place.
to her, berating her, really going at her. And at this
Yeah.
point again, Beatrice tries to get out of the truck, um, and the second time that she tries to escape the car, he slams her head into the dashboard, like he
Oh.
throws her head forward
Oh
into the
God.
dashboard. He locks the car again, takes off driving again. After he assaults her, he
Hmm.
drives her back to the Best Buy parking lot. He lets her get out, go back to her car, and he just, I think maybe he knew he'd taken it way too far at this point.
Yeah.
So he lets her out. She immediately calls authorities and she tells them the whole story. She's really upset, obviously. She's distraught. And they are able to arrest Pablo pretty much soon after. Like, they go find him in his car and they arrest him. He's charged with harassment, false imprisonment, and kidnapping.
Right.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He stays in jail for a night,
Hmm.
and then during the next day, his family post the $10,000 bond so he's released.
Right, okay. They post
Okay.
bail.
Right. When he's released, the police contract. They don't contact anyone. The police contact Beatrix, and
Beatrix or
they.
Beatrice?
I think it's Beatrice, but I keep messing up the name.
Oh,
Um, the police contact her, and they encourage her: don't stay with your sister. Move location because one, he knows where you live,
yeah, yeah.
and two, um, you live on the same street as him. Like the
Oh God,
sister and
yeah.
he live on the same street. So it's really important, or same neighborhood, I think. So it's important that you go stay somewhere else and get yourself away from this situation. Um, the police also offer protection
Mm,
to Beatrice, and they're like, we can send people to come and stay with you or to watch over you. But she kind of refuses and she ignores all the advice,
that's
and
weird.
instead she goes back to stay at her sister's, and she just
What?
plans to stay away
She's
from
stupid.
Pablo. Yeah, a call is made to Beatrix's new boyfriend, and they warn him that Pablo has been released because he's listed as a victim, also because he got threatening phone calls and stuff.
Right, okay.
So he, after hearing that, calls Beatrix and he's like, "Look, I have a spare room that you can totally stay in." Um, yeah, I think she refuses that as well. I think it's a situation where people surrounding them said that it's possible that in that community they just didn't. How can I say this properly? They don't encourage like police intervention into their lives.
Right,
They
okay. So
don't.
she felt like she couldn't ask or accept the police's help because her neighborhood or like, where she's from wouldn't have accepted that. It probably would have been worse for her in the long run,
Yeah, I
she's
just think
thinking.
they were perhaps a little standoffish with police.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So people at the time, or people, at the time of this incident, told the newspapers that the relationship with Pablo was abusive, but that Beatrix was too scared to involve anybody. They said that she actually lived in fear of him and that she had really struggled to break up with him.
Yeah.
So I think this was somewhat expected, but he'd never done anything so abusive as perhaps to push her to a point where she felt like she couldn't handle it, you know?
Right, okay.
Around 4 a.m., December 18th, which is the day he's released,
Hmm.
um, a phone call is made to the police. Um, I'm not going to share the phone call during this podcast because it's a little dark and I just
Okay.
think it's perhaps a little too much. But I do want to repeat some of what was said. I would encourage you that if you don't like listening to things like this, perhaps now is a good time to fast forward at least a good few minutes until somewhere near the end of the podcast. I'm going to be talking about this 911 call. So the call is made by a female. She initially whispers to the 911 operator, "I live in 464."
Mm-hmm.
The operator asks for the full address, and the woman gives it that she lives in 464 and the area that they lived in. The operator, unfortunately, asks her to repeat it if possible so that she could be 100% clear where the girl is before she can send someone to the area.
Mm.
And the girl starts to answer, but
Mm.
as she is about halfway through her answer, she stops point blank and she screams, "No, no, please, no, no, no." Then you hear two gunshots and the
Mm.
call goes silent. Um, then a man picks up the phone and he resumes the call with the operator, who asks him what is going on. And the man replies, "I just shot everybody right now." The operator clarifies with him, clearly really distressed, and she says, "You shot everybody?" And he answers, "Yes." The operator tries, really calmly. She's obviously very professionally trained, and she asks him his name, and he replies, "Pablo Sanchez."
Mm-hmm.
The operator asks how many people Pablo shot, and he replies, "3. My ex girlfriend, because she was cheating on me with Roy, and myself. I'm going to shoot myself right now." The operator pleads with him to stay on the phone and just wait until they can get someone there She tries to comfort him and she asks him not to shoot himself.
Mm.
She then asks him exactly what happened, and he replies, "Yeah, 6 months ago, I caught my girlfriend cheating on me, and I told Roy to stop talking to her, and he wouldn't do it. And he pressed charges on me, kidnap him. I'm not a bad man." The operator clarifies with him, and he asks that Beatrice, she clarifies that Beatrix pressed charges on him, but she didn't know what she was doing, and I think he's trying to sort of insinuate that she's sort of been pushed into it by Roy,
Mhm.
the new
Mhm.
boyfriend. The operator asks who else is there, if anyone else is with them that night, to which Pablo replied her sister and her husband. Then he explained that he had got there by car. He tells the operator that he's currently alone in the house, and when asked what room he's in, the call goes quiet and a loud bang can be heard. The operator says to her colleague, "I think he just shot himself." Um, Police arrive not long after the call concludes. They find that Pablo has entered through the back door by shooting out a window at the rear of the house.
Mm.
He's carrying a 45 caliber Glock, which he first took to Beatrice's sister's room, Maria Santora Silvia, which she shared with her husband, Max Aguera O'Hara, where he shot them both dead.
Mm.
Beatrix hears those gunshots, and that's what pushes her to call the police. She's the girl at the start of the call, but while trying to get help, Pablo entered the room and shoots her dead. After that brief conversation with the 911 operator, Pablo takes his own life. His The gun that he uses was borrowed. It wasn't something that was registered to him. And his car is found outside of the house, still running with the keys in it. It led detectives to suspect that he would have continued on to another house and that he was just stopping by this house. His plan was to attack this house, and that if he was unsuccessful, perhaps he would have continued on to Roy's house.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, at this house, obviously, he found who he was looking for and takes the life of the three members inside, as well as himself. Um, this doesn't have, unfortunately, there is nothing nice at the end of this case, which is why it affected me so much. And this phone
Yeah.
call, you can listen to it online. I think it's somewhere you can listen to it, but I wouldn't recommend it unless listening to these calls helps you understand, the criminology of what someone's going through.
Yeah.
But it is distressing. It
Yeah.
is it is a sad case, and the reason there are a few reasons I wanted to talk about this case. Um, Somebody said to the male that, why can't we just handle these things? Like, why does it have to end in death? And
Mhm.
that reminded me of the quarantine that we're currently in and how
Yeah.
I have heard a lot of domestic abuse cases those cases have been rising because people are trapped together right now. And so I wanted to bring up this case to let people know that, you know, it's okay to reach out to police. If you can take the time to get out and to talk to someone, get out of that place. And then if you do contact someone, go and stay somewhere really safe, somewhere where they don't know where you are. And not to say that everyone's going to go down this road, but it's just an important thing that we just keep ourselves safe. You don't know what perhaps someone's going to do, and when someone's in a
Yeah.
desperate situation. And so I did want to mention that if you struggle with domestic violence or you know someone who may be in danger, that you can contact National Domestic Violence Hotlines. For the UK, you can contact 0808 20000247. For the US, you can contact 1088 799 7233. For Japan, you can call Tell Japan at 0357740992. And that for anyone in any other country, please search and familiarise yourself with domestic abuse hotlines in your country. I'm sorry I couldn't read them all out. I will put those numbers on Twitter if anyone wants to find them, and I
Mm.
would really recommend that you reach out for help. That's the sad triple homicide of Beatrix Santora Silvia, Max Aguero O'Hara, and Maria Santora Silvia, and the suicide of murderer Daniel Sanchez.
Yeah, you're right. That was dark.
That one,
That one was really dark.
it just doesn't have a happy thing at the end, and really, when I researched this case, I wasn't going to do it,
Yeah.
but I just thought that it was a really it's a way for us to just remind ourselves that dark stuff happens, and that even if you don't even know, but just to double check in with somebody at this time, especially
Yeah.
when we're all indoors, to double check in with somebody,
Mhm.
to reach out to someone and to let them know that you're there. This is a good reminder to us all that we should be looking out for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Definitely.
so dark. I'm
I
so sorry.
I have like a thing, like every couple of days I like text like loads of people, just like, you okay? How's everyone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just checking
It's,
in on people. And it is like it sounds weird, like sometimes you don't want to intrude on other people's lives when if you think
yeah.
something's going on, you might know something's happening, and you don't want to intrude, you don't want to like
Mm-hmm.
cause them a fuss, but sometimes you just got to call for help for them.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it is okay to do that, even if they hate you for a bit. you know you've got
right,
to
and
you've
I
got to do
think,
it.
and during this time, if you do have any spare time, I don't think it's a terrible thing to get online, and you can get onto these national domestic abuse hotlines, and you can familiarize yourself with some of the signs. Sometimes we
Mm,
think that we already know, but new signs are out every day. There's new articles written. If you go onto one of these websites, you can look up some of the signs that are maybe not familiar to you. And,
yeah.
even if that means you reach out to somebody, and I'm not saying to suspect anybody, I'm not saying anything like that. But it's great to know these signs so that you can feel prepared, and, you want to help, and people that you love, you want to be around. And if you just, you know, if you
Mhm.
know, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I agree. I totally
I'm
agree.
so sorry.
No, it's
That's a
fine. it
really
was it was
dark,
interesting. um
right?
and like you said, it's a bit dark to it's a bit more dark to play the 911 call. But it's
Yeah.
something me and you used to do a lot, and I know that you still listen to 911 calls. And I don't know why it's like a dark, like you said, it's like a dark understanding.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I was studying, I sometimes I would like get a case, and then just to familiarize yourself, you'd
Mm.
listen to these things. And when I did
It
criminology,
also
you want to learn about what these
it
people are going through at the time.
humanizes this case,
Yeah,
because sometimes
100%.
when you read about it, it's just like information going into your brain. But when you hear
Hmm.
people's voices and how scared they are and stuff like that, it really brings it back to life, that like this actually happened, like this genuinely
Right.
happened. So
Yeah,
sometimes I
this
think
one.
it's a good thing to listen to them, because it draws you back into reality.
Yeah, I texted you a few days ago, and I was like, wow, this one really affected me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? I I know it's a dark story, but I don't want her story. This really nice girl. I don't want
Yeah.
her Beatrix's story to just not be told just because it's kind of dark. I think it's a
Yeah,
great
I
lesson for
agree
us
with
all,
that.
and let's use this as like an example for us to get better educated on these topics. And you know, I'm glad I can read the numbers out. I'm glad it gives me a chance to. I didn't know those numbers, off by heart,
Yeah.
and looking at those websites was great for me to just familiarize myself. So yeah, hopefully that's you know it's
Yeah,
interesting,
no,
but
it's
it's
good. It
also
was,
sad and dark, right?
yeah,
Mm.
but
So sorry.
no, it's fine.
I
You brought
will.
this
I
podcast
will.
right down to the somber notes.
Yeah, dark. I will upload those numbers onto Twitter, and I would recommend that if you listen to this, Twitter and Facebook, we've been really super active on to try and we've been putting out, some of the pictures that go along with these cases. And if you want to learn more information about the things we talk about, those two mediums are kind of good places for us to upload
Yeah.
stuff, to kind of contact you, and for you to contact us, which we really want. So yeah, just contact us there if you have any case that you've seen and you want to hear more about. Sometimes it's nice to just listen about it, right?
Yeah, we tend to be really active on Twitter and the Facebook page. So yeah, if you like read something really interesting or heard about some, weird crime, just hit us up and send us a message or whatever, tweet us, and we'll look into it because we extensively look into these things, don't we?
Yeah, I think we like going and checking. I mean, it's nice to research, or not nice. That sounds weird, but it's like, it's interesting for us to research into it. So if you have heard of a case that you're just mildly interested in, let me know, and I'll try and look it up and see if I can find more details on it. Because sometimes some like creepy detail comes out, and it makes it more like interesting to listen to.
Yeah. The word that I always use is juicy. Uh,
Juicy,
it's more juicy. It's a juicier
juicy.
crime, and also it's just easier to listen, isn't it? Like sometimes like people just prefer this format where they can listen to it like on the way to
Mm,
work or something in the car, or you know, I might do that
yeah,
later
for sure. I
actually. I might listen to
I've
my own voice in the
definitely
car.
I've definitely become obsessed with the podcast recently. Like the
Yeah.
research is fun, and making the podcast is fun. I'd like just because this is just us talking about something we'd normally talk about, so it's been really fun to do. I'm so invested. I just love it. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, speaking of, because we're so interested in it and we find it so easy to do and fun to do, and whilst we're not doing anything in quarantine, we decided that we'll do like a mini episode, a mini-sode on Wednesdays.
Yes. Yeah, we did the Disney mini-sode that wasn't very mini.
No, it was like an hour and a
That
half
was
long.
it was our birthday one, so we obviously were really excited. But yeah, like Jess said, we're gonna do, especially during quarantine, we're gonna do like a this one goes out on Saturdays, right? The normal
Yeah,
crime. It's going to go out every Saturday, and it's going to be like an hour, just over an hour long, something you can listen to in the car. But we wanted to do like a short mini-sode kind of section too. Every Wednesday, we will try and find some maybe kind of cases that don't have huge details that we just thought were interesting, or some story someone's had, or
yeah,
someone's family
that's the
story.
thing.
If you have a family story, let us know and
Mm.
we'll read it out.
Yeah, there's loads of like real. So I know it's like we do like real true crimes, but all of ours are like they've been reported on. There's like
Hmm.
lots and lots of detail or whatever. So we were thinking about more like the real stories, that happen to people
Right.
around us, and like hope like maybe some of you guys. Not hopefully. I almost said hopefully some of you guys, and not hopefully that a crime has happened to you. But if you have something, we let us know because that's what we plan to do. Also, as well as crime, we are very into paranormal
Yeah.
things, and we watch
Yeah.
a lot of ghost hunting stuff. So also kind of stories like that, like ghost stories and paranormal experiences. And if you have anything like that, um, then please let us know. I actually have a
Yeah.
paranormal thing that happened to us, and like mostly me, but you were
Yeah.
there,
Yeah, I
so maybe
did
we can talk about
notice
that.
that. I noticed that people in America, people in Australia, someone in like some people in Canada were listening to the podcast. And if your like town has a famous like murder or famous, I don't know, paranormal kind of story or like
Mm,
myth or something, I would really love to hear that, and we'll read that on the podcast. So
yeah,
we're gonna look for
definitely.
those things. I'll come out next Wednesday anyway. We're gonna get like working on that, and I think it does. Like I can't think of the phrase I'm thinking of. Popular belief. Contrary to popular belief. Wow, talking today has not been my thing. Um, yeah, contrary to popular belief. This, like preparing for this podcast, actually takes so much time. I research for
Yeah,
days about something, and I'm looking into so much. So I would like to keep the minisode going after the quarantine finishes, but yeah, hopefully we can continue both.
yeah,
Um,
hopefully. But when we're
yeah,
both
it's
going
been
back to
fun.
work full time, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see
But
after the
hopefully,
quarantine finishes. Yeah,
we got the
that was
main
good.
one
So
going.
yeah, look for that next Wednesday, and then every Saturday this will keep going out. And this was so nice. I just enjoyed, even though it was dark. I
Yeah,
enjoyed.
it was very dark today.
Yeah, I think we did it, Jess. I bloody love orange.
And I fucking love green. All right, guys, We'll see you next Saturday. Bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.